Shared Leadership, presented by Lacey, Allen, Andrea, and Arij. The role and responsibilities of organizational leaders have changed over the past several years. In the past, the role of leadership is often associated with power and oppression. Today, the complexity and the challenges that arise in the workplace require another form of leadership that can be disseminated to a larger audience and which goes beyond the individual level. According to Byron, Collinson, Grid, and Alban, shared or distributed leadership is about sharing the decision-making process between leaders and followers. From a distributed perspective, leadership practice takes shape in the interaction of people rather than from the action of an individual leader. The majority of researchers argue that distributed leadership is about cooperation and trust rather than competition among people. People might all share the same mission, but they contribute to it in different ways. Most researchers agreed that distributed leadership is a form of leadership that allows people to make the job in a more efficient, meaningful, and effective way. From a leadership perspective, the execution of most leadership activities involve multiple leaders, and this approach leads researchers to examine what is new about shared/distributed leadership. A critical analysis of the research and theoretical foundation. Research in this field provides some promising approaches that give insight to the beneficial outcomes of distributed/shared leadership in the organizations. The notion of distributed leadership has generated the attention of many researchers and practitioners in different fields, such as education and military organization. Distributed leadership practice were examined at different levels. The majority of the researchers took a multi-level approach and moved from the individual and the group level to a broader organizational level. The critical issue from a distributed perspective goes beyond sharing leadership practices and responsibilities between leaders and followers. While some researchers examine how leadership is distributed over leaders, followers, and their situations, other researchers examine the extent to which the components of distributed leadership affect leadership effectiveness in organizations. Also, some researchers studied how distributed leadership is experienced and perceived in the working environment and its impact on followers' satisfaction. From a distributive perspective, the majority of researchers argue that leaders need to step back, reevaluate their leadership practices, understand its different components and practices, and its impact on followers. In addition, practice is not just about the actions of individual leaders, but instead is fundamentally about interactions between leaders, followers, and aspects of their situation. Framing leadership from a distributed perspective requires leaders to move beyond the individual level of analysis and consider the reciprocal interdependencies that involve individuals at all levels. In addition, the majority of researchers argue that the execution of most leadership functions and activities involve multiple leaders, and that from distributed lens, mistakes often lead leaders, as well as followers, to discover better approaches. Individuals are part of the leadership process and at times receive the gift of being the leader from others. The perspectives presented in shared leadership research evokes the leadership process beyond the individual to higher levels of analysis. At the group level of analysis, researchers focus on type of group development, shared power, and achievement goals. Addressing the organizational level of analysis, research examines the impact of shared leadership on organizational culture and the ability to remain competitive in their field. It may even be possible to consider a meta organizational approach, as evidenced in the study by Duren and Baer, which suggested similar organizational types may unite to tackle global issues such as environmental responsibility. An example of shared leadership that we see in our own careers could be the faculty, senate, and administration in post-secondary level institutions. In addition to multiple levels of analysis, research in this area also conducted both qualitative and quantitative research, providing insight into both group interaction and goal accomplishment. Group interaction included the interplay of individuals, communications, and satisfaction of shared leadership among the members of a group. For example, in a quantitative study, Yamarino, Humford, Connolly, and Dion conducted surveys addressing how group interaction helped to create a climate of success. In contrast, Bolden, Petrov, and Goslin conducted a qualitative research with 152 in-depth interviews in order to develop a model of interaction in shared leadership. While the methodologies differ, each of these examples seek to develop understanding of interaction within the group, which helps to attain and sustain shared leadership. Assessing achievement of goals was another aspect emphasized in research, gauging the effectiveness of shared leaders to accomplish group objective. In one study, Elizabeth conducted surveys as a method to evaluate faculty-led training workshops, while a case study conducted by James demonstrated shared leadership will improve faculty development. A review of research reveals several common themes which address primary components of shared leadership. The development of shared leadership teams could have a significant impact on the effectiveness and satisfaction of the members within the groups. Groups are emergent if they were formed organically by those within the group, while assigned groups were created by higher authority within a hierarchical structure. The development style has been found to impact the success of shared leadership, with emergent development as the more effective style. Another theme found in research centers on the application of shared leadership studies. Reference best practice for implemented shared leadership effectively, including Raynor and Gunther's 2005 report on methods to create an environment allowing creative approaches in response to challenges. Additionally, Waterhouse 2007 discussed training employees for shared leadership, while Grant 2011 provides predictors of effective shared leadership and recommendation for initiation. According to research, shared leadership has several benefits to an overall organization. Research has shown through our readings of journals and that organizations see an increase in job satisfaction, sense of ownership of the organization, and pride, as well as control of the work environment, a commitment to staff, to the organization and their work processes, effectiveness and efficiency. Also, what was found that those who worked within a shared leadership model had lower staff turnover. Changing the organizational culture is not easy. Most studies have shown that it takes up to 6 years to fully implement the model into organizations. During the implementation of this change, some challenges can include the inability to secure the tools that are necessary, usually those of information systems, training, and resources. Regular evaluation of the progress of implementation to identify and solve problems before they affect morale and reduce buy-in to the model is required. Some areas for further research on this topic through current studies have been further organizational level research, potential negatives, how to improve shared leadership through an organization, and hybrid leadership, both shared and hierarchical leadership. Of importance, we found in this study that when we came together and distributed leadership became the practice of our own team, we were also understanding both the dynamics and the nature of what it means when they use the term shared leadership or distributed leadership, in the sense that we too became part of the process. We thank you for your time and attention. This is the Red Team.